Hey, my people, I hope you're doing well. So, here's a question that's been making a lot of people stop and think lately. Can President Trump actually run for a third term in 2028? I mean, it sounds wild, right? The Constitution clearly says no one can be elected president more than twice, but Trump, being Trump, has hinted that he just might try. And now the internet, the media, and even political insiders are buzzing about whether it's even possible. Let's talk about it. So, this all started when a Deadline report revealed that President Trump hasn't exactly shut down the idea of running again in 2028. In fact, there's already talk of Trump 2028 merchandise floating around, and his allies, including Steve Bannon, have been teasing the possibility of another campaign. When asked directly whether he'd challenge the constitutional rule, Trump simply said, "I would love to do it." Not exactly a denial, huh? He's also mentioned there might be, quote, methods of doing it. And that one word, methods, has everyone from political analysts to legal scholars raising their eyebrows. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The U.S. Constitution's 22nd Amendment, ratified in 1951 after Franklin Roosevelt's 4 terms, says that no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Pretty clear language, right? So, in simple terms, Trump can't be elected president again. But some people are trying to twist the wording. They're saying, well, it says elected, not serve. So, theoretically, could someone become president again through some kind of loophole? Maybe by running as vice president and then stepping into the top role later? That's where the 12th Amendment steps in and shuts the door on that idea. It says that no one ineligible to be president can serve as vice president either. So the so-called VP loophole doesn't actually work. Legal experts from both sides of the political spectrum have said this is basically a dead end. Georgetown law professor David Super called that idea a clear misinterpretation. And others have pointed out that the entire point of the 22nd Amendment was to stop exactly this kind of situation, preventing any one person from holding on to presidential power indefinitely. But still, Trump knows exactly what he's doing by floating the idea. It keeps his name dominating headlines, it energizes his supporters, and it definitely unsettles his opponents. And maybe that's part of the strategy, to make it seem like he's unstoppable, even against the Constitution itself. But what do you think? Is this just clever political theater? Or could it be a sign that Trump is testing how far his base will go to back him, even against a constitutional limit? Now, legally speaking, changing the Constitution to allow a third term is almost impossible in today's political climate. To do that, you'd need a 2/3 majority in both the House and Senate, and then ratification by 3/4 of all U.S. states. That's 38 states, by the way. That's not happening anytime soon, and certainly not before 2028. A few Trump allies in Congress, like Representative Andy Ogles, have tried floating resolutions to amend the 22nd Amendment, but they've gone nowhere fast. So even if Trump seriously wanted to pursue it, the path is basically blocked. Still, it's hard to ignore the political psychology behind this. For his supporters, the idea of Trump 2028 plays into a sense of loyalty and defiance, the idea that he's being unfairly limited by the establishment. But for many others, it raises real concerns about how leaders treat constitutional limits. If a president starts treating those limits like obstacles to overcome rather than rules to follow, that's when things start getting dangerous for democracy. And here's another thought. Do you think Trump's hints about a third term are more about keeping attention and leverage? Because every time this topic comes up, his name dominates the headlines again. And whether you love him or not, that's a pretty smart move politically. It keeps him in control of the conversation. Now, polling shows that most Americans aren't on board with a third-term idea. A Washington Post, Ipsos poll found that 62% of people think Trump might actually be serious about trying, but only 18% actually support it. Even many Republicans are hesitant. Senator Markwayne Mullin, for example, said he'd never support an unconstitutional third term unless the Constitution itself was properly amended. So while Trump might enjoy teasing the possibility, the political reality doesn't seem to back it up. But here's where it gets even deeper. Some constitutional scholars worry that even joking about breaking the 2-term limit could slowly erode public respect for the Constitution itself. Think about it. If the rules can be bent for one leader, what's to stop others from trying the same thing? History shows that the strength of a democracy doesn't just rely on written laws. It relies on the willingness of leaders to respect those laws. So, can President Trump actually run again in 2028? As of now, the short and simple answer is no. The Constitution won't allow it. The legal loopholes people talk about don't hold up under serious scrutiny. But his willingness to even raise the question tells us a lot about where American politics might be headed, and how far some leaders are willing to go to test the limits of power. So, what do you think? Is this just Trump being Trump, keeping everyone guessing and staying in the spotlight? Or do you think there's a deeper plan forming behind the scenes? I'd really love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you found this breakdown interesting, go ahead and hit that like button, share this video with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on all the latest political stories shaping the 2028 landscape. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.